When I was looking for a coach to support me when I started my YouTube channel at age 52, I realized it wasn't somebody with the technical expertise that I needed as much as someone who understood what it was like for such a big undertaking at this next chapter in my life. And in this video, I will share my 5 essential tips for finding the perfect coach for your situation, including some that may surprise you and that could help you avoid costly and timely mistakes. So, my first tip is to define your developmental goals. That is, what area of your life are you looking for help with? Is it family, relationships, work, health? This is going to help when it comes to narrowing down your search and also identifying the coaching niche you're looking for. If you're not sure or you're thinking to yourself, my entire life needs help, that's okay as well. But I would still suggest thinking about whatever area feels the most pressing to you. And the reason this is you're not limiting yourself, but rather any good coach is going to be able to respond to any of those other topics that come up in your session. While I certainly hired my coach with the idea of helping me through this big change during my midlife, I found that when I was, say, wanting to make a purchase for my YouTube channel and buy some equipment, I realized all these beliefs about money were coming up, and then my partner's beliefs about me spending money. And so my coach and I were able to pivot during a session and tackle that as well. So it can be helpful just for the search part when we get into tip number two, that you have an idea of what kind of coaching. In this second tip, I'll share some smart discovery strategies that go beyond Google. Now, there are several search engines out there that you can check out, and there's a few that are actually dedicated to coaching or mental health professionals. The first one I came across was called Noomi, that's Noomi, and I'll put that in the notes. And this looked to be a way to put in your area or where you're located, and then you could look and see the coaches that live there. There's also another one called Bark that had you kind of filter down to what kind of coach or niche you're looking for, and then they would send you a list of results. This one did seem to require that you include your email, so just keep that in mind. Another place you might check out are any of the growing number of certifications for coaching. The one I knew most about, or the one I think is the most famous, is the International Coaching Federation. And there's a lot on there about getting certified, but they also have a page dedicated to coaches that have taken their program that you can hire. Another place that I looked at was some other independent certification programs. So there's one called the Life Coach School, which I've actually been a member of, and there is a couple others out there, just different certification programs, and a lot of them will list coaches that are available, and you can kind of sort by niche. And then another place you might look are the social media platforms. A lot of coaches out there are creating content in short form, so your Instagram, TikTok, your YouTube shorts. And other coaches are doing longer video formats. So that's something you can also look at. I think if you would just Google, or excuse me, if you would just use your search engine and type, something will come up for you. I really like this kind of search because it allows you to kind of get an introduction to that coach's communication style. You get to hear about what their backgrounds are, the kind of coaching they may do, their values. And it can be a great way to sort of investigate that coach to see if it's someone you think you might want to work for or what kind of model they use, if that resonates with you. So, also don't forget about podcasts. That's actually how I originally learned about life coaching and mental health coaching and self coaching. I had originally been following a podcast, and the person mentioned that she was a life coach, and I'd never heard of this. She'd also been an attorney and an academic, and had left it so that she could further her desire to help people through coaching. So I was really curious. She talked a lot about a teacher of hers and the life coach school. So I eventually went and found that podcast. And when I got there, I really felt like I landed. I felt like the person was near my age, was speaking to me, and I really enjoyed the content. I wouldn't say that all of it met my needs, but there was enough there that felt like it resonated with me that I eventually, ended up joining their membership program, which I'll talk about in my third tip. So my third tip is to consider the coaching format. This can look like what I just mentioned, a membership or group coaching that might include a structured curriculum. And this could be really good for people who like that step-by-step framework and who want that kind of accountability. It also can offer a certain amount of variety, and often there's a community piece attached to those. It can also be more cost-effective than, say, one-on-one coaching. And that would bring me to the one-on-one coaching. That's when you would hire a single coach and you would meet on a regular basis. This is really nice because it can be very tailored to your specific situation, whatever you're looking for assistance with, and very personalized. It also means that you don't have to bring somebody up to speed to all the events going on in your life because they're following along as you go. Now, the third option I'll mention is the self-study. And this would look like following through with exercises or journal prompts that might come up in the publicly available content, like a podcast or in a video or even a self-help book. And this is great because it's the most affordable option, and it also allows for that flexibility to do it when you can. I will say that it also requires a certain amount of self discipline to make sure you go through with it, but it can be a really great entry level into this coaching stuff. I will share that in my example, I have actually done all of these different versions. And for me, I started off with the self study. As I shared, I listened to a podcast, and I've been a regular journal writer for a long time. So I would use those as writing prompts. I then joined one membership group, which I really did get a lot out of, except the piece with the community. I found that I didn't engage a lot with that because it was on a social media platform that I just didn't get involved in my daily life. So I didn't find myself wanting to do so on in this membership group. This same podcast, as I said, talked about the life coach school and that option. And so I eventually joined there. You could join on a monthly basis or an annual basis, with the annual basis being slightly cheaper. And so I did that for a year, and I really liked that because there was a whole access to all sorts of other information. There was a monthly theme, and you would work with group coaching, and they would coach to that theme. And one of the other benefits that was really nice is that you had a weekly session with a coach that was employed by the school. So that was great too. And that's actually what led me to finding my coach now. That program actually came to an end last year. And I just so happened to have the same coach a couple weeks in a row. So it was nice because we got coached on something, and then I was able to talk about the resolution to that event. And because of that, and because the school was ending, I then proposed to this coach that we might be able to work together after this. And that's what ended up happening. So lots of different formats out there. So consider what kind of suits your time, your budget, and your interest. So my fourth step is to offer some practical vetting steps. This is useful when you're at that point where you've got it narrowed down to a few coaches and you're kind of at the interviewing process. Now, a lot of coaches will offer a discovery call or maybe a trial period where you can work with them or at least talk to them on the phone or in a Zoom call to see if you connect. And it's important to get this right because if there is a disconnect, this can impede your progress. It can create frustration, and it can feel like a wasted investment. You'll want to check out their website or their social media platform. Are there any testimonials that you can read? And if there are testimonials, do they speak to specific results, or are they just kind of general praise? You want to see if these testimonials kind of resonate with you. Is it the kind of outcome that you're looking for? If it's important to you, you can check on credentials to see if this is a certified coach, and if so, where. And you also might consider your investment considerations, meaning that if you are interested in this coach, do they offer a discount if you go for a longer period? Some general characteristics of a good coach are somebody that's really great at communicating, and that would look like asking you more questions than they answer. They would listen to you without immediately jumping to solutions. They would make you feel heard but not judged. They would also probably give you something even valuable, even in the free call. And that can look like just a little nugget you can take away that might help the situation. And they will explain their philosophy clearly and allow you to ask questions about that. One other consideration is whether your coach's background lends itself to your specific criteria, the specific issue that you want to be coached on. And I mention that because it doesn't always matter. But for example, when I wanted to get coached on midlife transitions, I didn't particularly want a 25-year-old male coach. I wanted someone that was a little bit older than me, had been through some of the other pieces that I was going to be going through, and even could speak to the YouTube piece, which I was lucky enough to find in my coach, Karen. You may also not want to disqualify someone because they don't tick every single box. There can be a lot of value in what somebody's offering, but they might just not align with you on one or two things. So, for example, where I'm getting a lot of my YouTube information at the moment is run by a woman who is targeting women in their midlife who have a business, but also have it's also faith based, which doesn't necessarily resonate with me, but I'm still getting a lot of value out of the other things on offer. So think about those qualities and how much they might mean to you. There are some red flags that might come up in this discovery call or your initial impression of a coach. And those would look like if there's a lot of pressure sales tactics. You might even pick up that on their funnel or whatever marketing they have on their site. And if you find it a turnoff, that's a good warning sign. If they do a lot more talking than listening and telling you about themselves rather than asking why you've come, if they sort of point to cookie cutter solutions, like you have to join this specific program of mine because it will definitely help you with all your health issues, that can be a sign that maybe it's not going to be the tailored approach that you're after. And also, if they guarantee results, though, of course, that's what we want when we're hiring a coach. Being able to state that when I've only just met you and know very little about what you're bringing to the table can be something that might cause some hesitation and maybe think about somebody else. So my final tip is the importance of the chemistry factor. And this is one of those things, it's just going to be having to trust your gut and make sure you're feeling heard. For me, when I met my coach Karen, I realized that I really connected, that this person really got me. Karen has just the right amount of spice, but also not letting me off the hook. And that's exactly what I needed coming into this big goal of a YouTube channel. I knew I wanted someone that would have compassion, but also that would hold me to some accountability. And even if you think you're good at doing that yourself, there's something about knowing you're going to meet with somebody every week that can kind of get your tail off the couch sometimes. And for me, that connection was more important than any kind of credentials that somebody might have had. I look forward to these sessions. Sometimes they're a bit tricky, sometimes they're hard, and a lot of times they're a laugh. So if you'd like to know what those first few sessions of coaching can look like or what a month of coaching you might get as results, be sure to watch this next video. It'll be right here when it's ready. See you there.